Welcome to addition of integers. Our focus today is what does a negative really mean in math? I'm going to tell you right from the get-go. A negative is just direction, okay? It just tells us direction. Just the direction. Think about it in terms of money, okay? If you have $50 and you end up owing your little sister $10, your bank account's going to decrease by $10, and you'll have $40 left. It just gives us a direction. You're giving her $10, negative $10 for you. You're losing $10. Think about it in temperature, when the temperature drops. If the temperature drops, think of the direction the mercury goes on the thermometer. It starts, say we're at 70 degrees and it drops 10 degrees, it drops to 60 degrees. It's a loss of 10, okay? On a number line, which we're going to work with today, direction is either going right or left. If we use a vertical number line, like a thermometer, it's going up and going down. So let's look at this example here. Our first example, 2 rounds remain in a friendly video game of the Zombie Pretzel Attack 2. Each pretzel cheese scores 100 points. Each Zombie Pretzel cheese scores 100 points. Sorry, I didn't read that very clearly. Each player cheeses 3 zombie pretzels. So write each player's new score. All right, so this person has 200 points. Each person is cheesing 3 times. 3 times 100 gives us 300 points. So let's write that down. Okay. We have positive 300 points. If I have 200 points and I increase 300 points, that takes me to 500 points. If I'm down 400 points, I'm at negative 400, but I increase to 300, or I increase 300, that means I'm getting better, but I'm still at negative 100 points. And if I'm at negative 200 points and I increase 300 points, that gives me 100 points. And I started with an example using points on a video game because a lot of you are very familiar with that, how the point system works. And think of it if you've ever watched Jeopardy. People end up in the negative, but then they end up back in the positive by getting questions correct. So let's start with a money example. Suppose you received $10 from your grandmother for your birthday. You spent $4 on snacks. Using addition, how would you write an equation, meaning we have an equal sign, to represent this situation? So I have $10. How much am I adding to it? Oh, I'm spending $4. That means my direction's going in the negative. And how much money do I have left? If I started with 10, I spent 4 on snacks, means I have 6 left. Look at the connection between a positive 10 and a negative 4, and I end up with 6. Look at the relationship between a 10, a 4, and a 6. Okay? Keep that in the back of your mind. Let's look at this on a number line. We're always going to start at 0. I have 10. So I started with nothing. She gave me $10. So I'm going to go all the way to 10. But then I spent $4. So right now I'm at 10, but I'm spending 4. So think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where does that take me? To $6. So let's do a couple of these here on the number line, using the number line together. Then you can work on the rest on your own. So 5, so start at 0, plus 3. So 5, I add 3 more. That takes me to 8. Okay? Not so bad. Second one, 5. So start at 0. And I go up to 5. And I add negative 9. I mean, we're going backwards 9. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? Where did I end up? at -4. Okay? Now, let's look back here, and then we're going to look at these two. Go back one page. When we look at my answer here, when we look at the arrows, I'm pointing at the arrows right now. I have here a line that's positive, gives me a positive direction. Think about it. And this line here, this arrow, or vector as it's mathematically called, that's giving me a little bit negative. Do I have more positive or more negative? In this case, I have more positive. And let's write that. Clearly, I have more positive. Okay? So let's look at our next page. The first one here, 5 plus 3 is 8. If I look at this number line here, okay, I have 5 positive and 3 positive. I have all positive. My answer to 1 was positive. But let's look at 2. The red line here, 5 positive and -9 negative. Clearly I have more negative. And if I look at my answer to 2, it's negative. Again, look at the way the numbers relate. Look at the way the numbers relate and look at the signs. Okay? Try the next 4 on your own. I'm going to draw them out, and we'll meet back in about a minute. Okay, how did you do? For 3, I got -4. For 4, I got 0. For 5, I got -5. And for 6, I got +5. Again, look at the relationship between your numbers and their signs. And I'm going to let you see what I have on my screen. Okay? You can see on this third one here, clearly I have more negative, so my answer has to be negative. For 4, I'm at a complete even standstill. I'm right back at 0. On 5, I have more negative. And on 6, I have more positive. Okay? Remember, negative is just a direction. If you always relate things to money, you usually do very well on that. You make fewer mistakes when you relate it to money. Okay. The sum of a number and its opposite is 0. We saw that on the previous slide with 10 plus -10 equals 0. Two numbers that have a sum of 0 are additive inverses. The word add is right in there. Inverses. Inverse means opposite. You know in math we like to use more difficult words sometimes for the easy things. Inverse, opposite. Okay? The inverse property of addition. Every number has an additive inverse. The sum of the number and its additive inverse is 0. So 5 plus its additive inverse of -5 is 0. -5 plus its additive inverse of 5 is still 0. For algebra, a plus -a is 0, and -a plus a is 0. So take a second here and circle the expressions that show the sum of additive inverses, and we'll meet back. For each of the expressions that I circled with the purple highlighter, if I were to combine each of those, they would all add to 0. All right, so let's move on. You're playing a card game with your friends. The cards have integers on them for values. So David drew 3 cards, -6, 12, and -4. What's the sum, meaning add, of the cards in his hand? So let's start at 0. -6 takes me to here. Now I'm adding 12, which means I'm headed to the right. So that's 6, and another 6 takes me to here. And now I have to move 4 to the left. That takes me to 2. Okay? You drew the cards 2, 8, and -11. Your partner gave you a 7 from his hand. What is your total? So start at 0. I'm going over 2. I'm adding on 8. I'm moving 11 to the left, which takes me to -1, and now I'm moving 7 to the right. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so what is my total? My total is right where I ended at 6. Okay. So what card would you need to pick in order to get back 0? Explain using the term additive inverse. So what do I need? I have 6, I want to get negatives. I just gave the answer, sorry. I need to get to 0. So I would need -6. I need the -6 card because they're asking me to explain. 6 plus -6 equals 0. And -6 is the additive inverse of 6. I need the -6 card because 6 plus -6 is 0. And -6 is the additive inverse of 6. I did exactly what they asked me to do. All right. If a football player gains 40 yards on play, but on the next play he loses 10 yards, what would his total yards be for the game if he ran for another 60 yards? And hopefully it's somebody from the New York Giants gaining 40 yards on one play. Now look at my number line. I have a 0 here, but I did not put any other numbers on it. Feel free to put the numbers on it, and we'll meet back. I got 90 yards. If you look, I have a lot more positive, I drew it in green, than red, which is negative. I have definitely more positive than negative, so my answer is a positive 90 yards. And just so you know, it is possible for a player to run negative yardage in a game. It's possible. He could lose yards on every play. Okay? All right, so here's what I want you to do. The rules for adding integers. I want you to look back through the notes, and I want you to come up with your own rules for adding integers. Make sure it works for all possible situations. And write these rules here. And we're going to discuss them in class tomorrow. I will use the 4th slide, where you use the number line to answer questions 1 through 6. I would look at those, and I would look at your examples that we did, and help yourself come up with a set of rules. I hope you have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.